So we'll move on to the next measure, which is actually Resolution 100840 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District, authorizing TriMet to acquire by purchase certain real property necessary for the construction of the Portland-Milwaukie Light Rail project. There are two people in our audience that would like to speak to this measure. The first is John Charles.
Mr. President, perhaps I could introduce...
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
No,
go
quite
ahead.
all right.
Go ahead, yeah.
Well, and certainly testimony welcome. What I wanted to just introduce was that this is obviously a parcel acquisition associated with the hardship that was identified earlier in the project and was later, based on the application of that hardship, approved by the Federal Transit Administration for acquisition. So we've been working in good faith with the property owner over the last few months. They faced a fairly urgent need to relocate and consolidate some of their businesses in a new lease space in central Portland. That meant that they needed to get rid of, frankly, this asset, to sell this asset, but that was not possible when with the cloud of condemnation hanging over the project ahead. The reason that, as you know, we were going through a recalibration of the Portland-Milwaukie Light Rail project, and so we're being very measured about the additional financial commitments that we would ask you to approve. At this point in time, we believe that both these sort of fair dealing consequences of the process that we've been through with this particular property owner require us to move ahead at this time. Second is that where this parcel is located would be key in any recalibration project. So, for example, if you look at it on the map, it is on that, if you will, a strip of land that will require the extension of Lincoln through to the south waterfront area. So even on the very shortest of potential projects, this parcel will be required. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Again, what this authorizes is allows us to go ahead and make the offer, and again, for any properties over $500,000 requires board authorization of that offer. So that's where we are with the process. Again, the property owner has been very cooperative and working well with us, and we believe it's important to move ahead in the sense of good faith dealing.
Okay. Are there questions of the general manager? If there's no questions, John, do you want to? Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Charles, President and CEO of Cascade Policy Institute, and I'm part of the Policy Research Center in Portland. I'd like to call your attention to a couple points. First of all, I've read the staff report 4 times. It's possible that I had missed it, but I don't see a price tag here. All we know is it's greater than $500,000. How much greater than $500,000? That would be a good thing to know since you're being asked to vote for the acquisition. Second, I think the key part of the memo is page 2, 5th paragraph, in terms of your role as fiduciaries. TriMet would be purchasing the property in anticipation of the FTA full funding grant agreement, with the expectation that TriMet's cost will be recouped. However, in the event that there is no full funding grant agreement, the cost of this somewhere above $500,000 will be at TriMet's sole expense. So this is part of the opening gambit here to get the camel's nose under the tent for this $1.5 billion and counting project. And so it is a very key time for due diligence here. A couple points I'd like to make relevant. There is no realistic financial plan for the total project. There wasn't before under the 60-40 hypothesis. There's even less now under the 50-50 hypothesis. So you're being asked to spend an unknown amount of money for a project that you don't have a financial plan for. Second, for about the last 18 months, TriMet has either been planning for or implementing service cuts continuously. In my view, restoring the service cuts, especially on the frequent service lines, that carry 57% of all the bus traffic, which represents 2/3 of all the trips on the system, that should be a much higher priority than spending $1.5 billion on a slow train to a city that is only 4 miles southeast of the Ross Island Bridge. Third, any federal funding at all is highly speculative since TriMet has reduced service on the Green Line and Yellow Line and will be reducing service again in September in violation of the commitment to run these trains for 20 years because you took the federal capital money. Now, FTA seems to have a hard time understanding or defining what operating trains for 20 years means exactly, but it seems to me you're sort of speculating that FTA will continuously look the other way, that they give you money for these federal projects, you promise to operate them for 20 years, and then you cut service back. Well, maybe they might wake up one of these days and figure out that this is a bad place to spend money because you're not keeping up your part of the commitment. Fourth, TriMet has at least $907 million of off-book unfunded liabilities for OPEB and pensions, which will probably be higher once your next audit comes out a month from now, and no exit strategy from that problem that I know of, and that problem is part of why you're engaged in service cuts, because all these unfunded liabilities are cannibalizing the general fund. I think solving that problem should be a much higher priority than sending a slow train to Milwaukee. So my concluding comment is that in the staff report, at the end, it basically says, this is the only recommendation. If we don't do this, we impose hardship on the property owner, and I'm fully sympathetic of hardships on private property owners, but I don't believe this is the only option. I think you start to go down this road, and pretty soon all these property acquisitions and decision points on light rail come to you, and it's, well, we have to do this. We have to do it now. We did all these things before. We have to do this. No, this project has been a dream of planners in Portland for 20 years. You don't have to do this today. You can wait. You can undertake your own due diligence. You can ask more hard questions. Yes, the property owner will be inconvenienced. And I've been in that property. I'm very familiar with the building, with the whole neighborhood, with the whole route of light rail. You don't have to do this. You can ask questions. You can wait for a September briefing by the general manager on what exactly is the finance plan for this whole project before you take over a property that you may end up owning at your own expense at the same time. You're cutting service and having to go out for a bond measure for the one that you just approved. So I think in the whole picture, this really, really needs to be thought about in terms of how important is this versus everything else you're doing.
Thanks. Steve? Steve Shaw.
My name's Steve Shop. I live in Tualatin. In your June meeting, when Lynn Lauerbach made a motion to suspend property acquisition, there was no second. At that juncture, the light rail line to Milwaukee was estimated to cost $1.4 billion, anticipating a 60% federal match. There was more than enough reason to be prudent at that juncture and suspend the property acquisition, in fact, suspend the entire project. The private board chose not to, and they passed their budget and proceeded forward. Since that time, we've discovered that $100 million has been added to the estimate. It's now $1.5 billion and adding. That number does not include many multi-million-dollar segments, including work at South Waterfront to move the streetcar, move Moody Street, and raise the site 14 feet, not included in the TriMet Milwaukee Portland Light Rail budget. Since that time, we also learned that the federal match is 50%, not 60%. Now, I'm not sure when the TriMet board discovered that, but we know with absolute certainty that TriMet management knew a year ago. Until only a few weeks ago, they were proceeding as if they had the 60% match and were very close to obtaining the local gap that was needed. Well, we know that's not true. The gap has widened. We also know that you need additional service, obviously, for the elderly and the disabled. We also know that you need additional bus service. Not unlike the area in East Portland, the very area you're attempting to serve light rail to, the McLaughlin area plan, has a very similar deficiency in bus service. They have north and south lines that run on River Road, Webster Road, and McLaughlin with no east and west routes. In fact, buried in the McLaughlin area plan there is a recommendation that somehow east and west shuttle service is created because they have the same problem East Portland does. So you have an area there that needs additional bus service, not light rail. This situation with TriMet didn't sneak up on you all, and obviously by the unfunded liabilities and benefits packages, it's an enormous and severe problem. Now as the funding from Milwaukee Light Rail is unraveling, you're setting fire to more money here and proceeding forward with the acquisition of property. And I'm here to tell you, you're out of touch. I am in touch. I can tell you in the last 24 hours, I've been notified by people in the mix that there is a war raging, political war raging out at Clackamas and one in South Waterfront at the same time. That your likelihood of getting any Clackamas funding is nearly nil. And I would predict right now, this Milwaukee Light Rail line, you will not have local match even put in the government grant application in the fall. The line will never be built, and you are indeed setting fire to millions of dollars as you proceed forward. Not unlike the 50% versus 60% misrepresentation by the management, we also have another problem. In my hands right here is a survey questionnaire that was performed in the Milwaukee area plan. It clearly states no desire for Milwaukee Light Rail. In fact, it's a very low priority. And so I contend that the board has also been misrepresented about whether or not the area even wants light rail. What they do want, and it's spelled out very clearly, and I'll give you this copy of it, is they want enhanced law enforcement. And they want a safe community. And they want bus service. They want local service. Just like East Portland. So again, we have the exact same problems, East Portland, Winona area. You have no funding for Milwaukee Light Rail. And you're proceeding recklessly, as you know you are, if you take the advice of management and give them again what they want. So I urge you to really grasp what's going on here. Because there is a serious political war being raged out there at the county chair in Clackamas County, in the city of Portland, South Waterfront, and maybe you're not aware of it. Maybe the powerful forces you deal with and listen to don't tune you into what's going on, but I can assure you that tax increment financing is circling the drain, and that's why you get the message from Metro that's scrambling for more money. There's also a big message that they're going to, one more item, I'll quit. One more item. There's also another pursuit to start doing what Portland's done and attacking the budgets of local sewer and water districts out in the areas. So the scramble for money is great. The funding's not there, and it won't be. Preserve the transit service and get back to higher priorities. Thank you.
Thanks.